Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
And welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, WKYC style. We're here for the next 30 minutes. We've got a full slate of topics. One of the things on the menu, Shedeur Ochocinco and Shannon Sharpe on their Nightcap podcast had some very interesting things to say about Deion Sanders controlling Shadur Sanders and the draft potential to Cleveland. We'll get into that. Bull.
I'm Adam the Bull, and CC Sabathia just got into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Kenny Lofton was kicked off the writer's ballot after 1 year, but could he get a second chance? We'll get to that later. Jason.
I'm Jason Lloyd. NFL Championship Weekend, AFC and NFC Conference title games. We're going to make our picks. Philly, Buffalo, Kansas City, Washington. We'll talk about it.
Plus, the Cavs take on the 76ers tonight in Philadelphia. No Embiid, no Drummond, no Mobley. So, will any bigs play? We'll tell you coming up. But we start with some football, Jay.
Yeah, I mentioned the Ochocinco comments and Shannon Sharpe on their Nightcast podcast. In case you missed it, Nightcap podcast. In case you missed it, here's what they had to say. And if you're a Browns fan hoping Shadur Sanders comes to Cleveland, this doesn't sound very promising. Listen.
What pick are there in the draft? Who can they possibly get? And if you go to Cleveland, when you see the success that Baker Mayfield is having in Tampa, Cleveland 2? Oh, Cleveland gonna go. They pick number 2, Ocho.
Okay, they pick number 2. Where they going?
Quarterback, either Cam or Shedeur.
I mean, you know, sure, man. You think Prime?
No,
come on now.
I don't think Prime will.
No,
I don't think Prime wants Shedeur to go there. I do not.
Prime will intervene like Archie Manning did.
All right, it's pretty definitive there. But you always have to wonder, like, how much they really know when Shannon's saying, "Where's Cleveland draft?"
They don't even know where they're drafting.
Yeah, I mean, but they have strong opinions, and clearly,
and they know Deion.
They know Deion.
They do, but to me, the way he answered that was like, I'm just assuming that's the case.
Well,
not like Deion said specifically to him, I'm not letting him play for the Browns.
Well, no, absolutely not. But that's what these are. I mean, that's what this show is.
Well,
a lot of times we just say things and we think that's what's going to happen,
yes,
but we don't have.
I think it's an educated guess by Chad Johnson.
I mean, Deion tweeted in 2018 about Cleveland quarterback situation.
Remind people what he said.
In 2018, Deion tweeted about I wouldn't want a young quarterback going to Cleveland when they were a mess at the time. So he's already on record telling you. I've always thought.
And they're still a mess, just a different mess.
Now here's the thing. What can he really do though? What can he really do?
He can tell the teams, or Shadur or their agent can tell the teams, don't draft us. We're not playing in Cleveland.
And it has worked before.
It
Obviously,
has.
the Manning thing is John Elway
did it.
But
you need a card, and the card is you can, like, he makes money in college football, obviously. So the thing is, you're willing to forego an NFL career and a contract, at least in the beginning, because you don't want to play for a certain team. I don't know that he can do that.
I just think, I think if it got to that point, the Browns just wouldn't draft him. I think the Browns would blink.
It depends on how much you love the guy.
Now, if the Browns love him, what they need to do is
take him.
Wine and dine Deion.
You take him.
And first you got to try to get Deion to change his mind.
You take him. If you are convinced, this is the one guy in this draft. Yeah. You don't listen to Dad and you take him anyway. If you're not sure, then you probably pass on the guy. But if you if
you draft him and he doesn't play,
well,
it's a nightmare.
Then you deal with that.
That's a nightmare.
Then
that sets you back 5 years.
But if that's the guy that you're standing on the table, pounding the table, saying this is the guy, you have to take him, because there's plenty of other instances where agents have threatened, hey, don't take this guy. He didn't want to be there. And they took him anyway, and it worked out fine.
Right, but they don't have Deion Sanders as a dad. And
Agree.
they don't have a lot of money as a family in most cases.
And I think more than
Yeah.
likely the Browns probably are not in a situation where they are standing on the table saying this is
Probably.
the only guy.
Right.
I'm just saying if you feel that way,
Yes.
then you have to take it.
I think if you feel that way, you have to do everything in your power to talk to Deion and Shedeur, of course, and convince them that things are different now. And
Ultimately,
yeah.
let's remember, like we just went through this with LeBron and Bronny. And LeBron did all this talking, and nobody asked Bronny what Bronny wanted.
That's true.
And
yeah.
Bronny came out and was like, well, that's my dad. Like, that's not me. That's what my dad
it is.
thought.
The only thing I'd say that's different is Bronny's not really an NBA player.
But it's
And-
still the kid's
and
wishes.
obviously Shedeur
And
is.
you would think Shedeur is going to follow his father's advice, for
Yeah.
sure.
So-
but ultimately, it's the kid.
Let's do what Ocho did. Ocho made a declarative with the information that he has. Clearly, he hasn't talked to Deion. Deion didn't tell him, I'll never let Shedeur go there. At the end of all of this, does Shadur Sanders end up as a Browns quarterback, in your view?
No.
I don't think so either.
Probably not.
And for the reason that you gave, I don't think the Browns are convinced. We talked on the YouTube show that we think Kevin Stefanski has more power and say. This isn't the kind of quarterback Kevin Stefanski would draw up in the lab.
Well, he's
I don't know
accurate.
about that.
I don't know that he's the guy. He's accurate. He is.
He throws in on time. Like their offensive line was so bad at Colorado.
It was
that-
horrible.
I don't know. I don't know that he's not a good fit in Stefanski's
Maybe
system.
he is, and I'm not.
I do think the Browns are definitely taking a quarterback at 2. I feel like 99% certain about that.
Oh, I'm not even close to that. Really?
I'm not either.
I'm not.
I think it's more
anywhere
likely
near
than
that.
not that they do, but not 99. I would say maybe 55-45 that they do take a quarterback. We'll see. Okay, let's pick the games for this weekend. What's interesting about the collection of teams that are left, Buffalo, Kansas City, Washington, Philly, you have the 2 big markets in the NFC. You have 2 small markets in the AFC, but all of them are pretty much snow belt teams. There's not a team in here that played in a dome or played in a southern environment where you might be more likely to build that fast track offense. Let's pick AFC first. Are we picking with the point spread or just picking winners?
We had the point spread, so if you want to pick points, it's up to
you
you.
gotta
But
pick with
let's.
the points.
I think for this round we
Yeah.
should pick with the points.
Pick with
What
the points,
what is the Buffalo Kansas City spread
2
right now? 2
Kansas
still?
City by 2, right?
We had -1.5 on FanDuel this morning.
Okay, let's go with that. Let's go with that.
I
So
mean, the line's irrelevant when it's that low.
Right.
I like the Bills. I think they're going to win the game.
I
I
do
know
too.
it's in Kansas City.
Wow.
Contrary to popular belief, Josh Allen, even though they were 0-3 against the Chiefs, Josh Allen's played very well in those games.
Boy, we're 3-0, or we're 3 for 3 on the Bills. I think.
Oh, you're going Bills
I'm
too?
going Bills too.
Yeah, I think they beat them outright, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close.
Oh, I think it'll be
I don't
close.
disagree.
I don't
agree with
I
that.
think it'll
I
be
don't.
close.
I
I
think
think-
there's a huge disparity right now between the way the Bills are playing, and I know the Chiefs flipped the switch last week, and all of a sudden Travis Kelce looked like Travis Kelce again, but I think this is the Bills' year.
Here's the biggest thing I'm worried about for Buffalo, and obviously I want Buffalo to win, and everybody wants Buffalo to win.
Yeah.
If you're not a Chiefs fan, what's happening in the NFL is when fans whine about referee calls, that's fans. That doesn't matter. All right, the league is not cheating for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. If you want, you can believe whatever stupid conspiracy theory you want. The league, there's no upside to them cheating for him. There's tons of downside if the league were cheating for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Teams are getting it in their heads
I agree.
going into the game,
It's loser's
and
mentality.
that's affecting them.
It's loser's
It's a
mentality.
total loser mentality. I used to kill the Browns when they would complain about officiating.
I was so turned
and the
off
Texans
by,
after the
oh,
game.
I
It was
so turned off.
embarrassing.
I was so turned off by their reaction for their coach to be up there doing that.
Yeah.
You're setting the wrong example,
Bad
man.
calls happen. Shut up and don't let it.
That's not. But the refs did not cost Houston
No.
that game.
No, they were going to win even if those plays that were in question weren't called. They still were the better team. They were going to win the game.
That's it. I mean, and so the Bills have to go in there, and I think they will. Not it's us against the refs and the Chiefs. If you have that attitude, you're already behind the.
Well, you know
eight ball.
what perpetuates that? You talk about the fans.
Yeah.
Everywhere on social media you look.
I know, it's ridiculous.
You saw it. You saw, like at the coin toss, it had for the next round, it had the Bills player standing there with 3 refs standing there
Right,
for the
it's
coin
just-
toss.
it's so
Like, so you
stupid.
see it everywhere.
Yeah.
It gains traction, and then even if you didn't believe that, suddenly because it's everywhere, you now believe it.
That's right.
And it clearly infected the Texans' locker
No
room.
doubt.
And I think that it was in their head already when
Yes.
they went into the game.
I think a lot
they
of
were
teams have been
defeated
doing
before the
that,
game
and
started.
that's been a problem.
Yeah, I hope the Bills don't go in with
That's
that
right.
with that attitude. Just beat them, win the game.
I'm taking the Chiefs for the record.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, they're at home. There's no,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be close.
I think last team with the ball last wins.
Although neither offense has been explosive.
Yeah.
Interestingly, we think of Mahomes and Allen putting up huge numbers, but they haven't.
They played in the regular season, and the Bills won.
If
right?
it's a one-score game and Mahomes has the ball with a minute left, the Chiefs are winning the game.
What was the score in the
Probably,
regular
yes.
season game, and where was it played?
I believe it was in Buffalo, and I think they won 29-21, but I'll confirm for you in 1 sec.
All right. I do think that I love the matchup. It's going to be a great
game.
matchup. We remember the game from a couple of years ago.
In Buffalo, 30-21, excuse me, 30-21.
30-21. So a 9-point win on their field. Let's see what happens in the playoffs. It was amazing to me watching Kansas City last week how all of a sudden, after being completely a non-factor all season, Travis Kelce just became Travis Kelce again.
Yeah.
It was
Saving
crazy.
them for the playoffs.
It's
How do you
almost like
guys
this
see-
team only performs when they know they have to.
Yeah.
And that's a risky thing, but it's also a nice thing to know that, here's the button.
Hasn't been risky
Flip
to
it.
them.
No, it's worked.
What about the NFC guys? Eagles, Commanders, who you got?
What's the spread there?
6, I think.
6.5.
6.5.
Wow.
I love the Commanders.
I do
I
too.
think it's a close game. I think it could go either way. I'm going to pick the upset with the Commanders, but I love them with the points because I think it's a field goal game. The reason I love them so much is because Jalen Hurts is not healthy. And if they had played on a clean track last week, the Eagles might have gone down.
Yeah.
But he is not healthy, and I know he's going to play, but I'm concerned about that. And I don't know that, Washington's defense is okay, but I don't know that Hurts is going to be able to take full advantage of it because he's banged up. So I'll go with the healthier quarterback. I think Daniel's the better quarterback and the healthier quarterback. And the being a rookie, to me, hasn't mattered his first 2 games. I don't think it's going to matter here.
I like Washington to cover, but I think Philly wins the game.
I could see that. It's
I'm
going to be a field goal game,
Bull.
I think.
I'm taking Washington all the way around. I
Yeah.
think they're going to win the game. Give me those points. to your point, I think that's
surprised.
stealing.
I'm surprised.
6.5?
Yeah. Where did it open?
I think 6. It's been
Yeah.
right around there, yeah.
I think that's stealing. I mean, you're going to give Jaden Daniels 6.5 points. And to me, this game comes down to one thing. Can the Washington defense keep Barkley in check? If they keep him under 100 yards, I think they win the game. If he runs over them like
He's
he
averaging
has,
like 160.
he's just been incredible.
Well, he needs 100 and I say 148 yards to have the most rushing yards ever in a season, regular season playoffs combined.
Wow.
Terrell Davis has the top 2 totals in the history of the league.
Amazing.
In what, 98 and 97?
Well, of course,
not
he had.
98 and 97, yeah.
He didn't play the 17th game, did he? Didn't they sit
No, Barkley did not. Otherwise, it
Saquon
would have been
sacked.
over
Yeah.
it already. But,
So, I mean, that's kind of apples to
16
apples.
games, right.
All right, there you go. It should be a great weekend of you. I can't believe we have 3 NFL games left.
Yeah.
That's it. And then we go into the doldrums.
Well, free agency, less than 2
No, I
months
know.
away.
The draft. It's going to be a big
Draft
draft
after
season
that.
here in Cleveland. All right, we're taking a break. Coming up, the Cavs and the Sixers will tip it tonight. Is this one of those games where the Cavs just run away early and then toy with their opponent for 4 quarters? We'll talk about it when the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on WKYC comes right back. Welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Big news this week in baseball. CC Sabathia, a first ballot Hall of Famer. Got a really high percentage of the votes, too. I think that surprised a lot of folks. He'll go in with the New York Yankees logo on his cap instead of the Cleveland C. He said that's his preference. Start looking at guys that might be able to go into the Hall of Fame for the Indians/Guardians. I think Omar Vizquel is a definitive not going to make it because of all of his stuff off the field. Kenny Lofton, to me, is a very interesting guy. It looks like he's missed out on the traditional path to get in. What do you guys think about Kenny Lofton? A, should he be a Hall of Famer? And B, will he be a Hall of Famer?
I think he should be, and I think he will be eventually. Now, he's on the ballot. So they used to be called the Veterans Committee, and now they call it the Contemporary Era Committee. There's like 3 different committees, and they rotate when they vote. That's how we've seen guys in those committees like Harold Baines get in. Dave Parker is getting in this year from that group. I think there was another player that's getting in this year from that group too, or maybe it's a manager. I can't remember. But to me, Kenny Lofton, when you look at his overall body of work, to be fair, he's a borderline case. If you really look,
he is a borderline.
Now
guy.
he should not have been off the ballot in the first year. That was ridiculous.
That's what surprised me, Bull.
What hurts Kenny Lofton is that after age 31, 32, whatever, he played a long time and his career was really so. He had a lot of years at the end where he was kind of a mediocre or worse player.
I mean, compiling numbers at the end.
Exactly,
Yep.
and. I heard Jim Duquette, I think, say the other day that the reason Andrew Jones hasn't gotten in yet, and I think he will next year, but the reason Andrew Jones hasn't gotten in because he was great until he was 30, and then he went off a cliff.
Right.
He said if Andrew Jones had retired at age 30, he would have gotten in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
I think Kenny Lofton retired at 33, he would have gotten in the Hall of Fame. They shouldn't be penalized for that.
I agree. They're still good enough to be major leaguers.
I think if Kenny Lofton had had 2 more prime years, he'd be in. So he's right on the borderline, but I think what we've seen over recent years in these contemporary era committees, so the contemporary era committees are former players, Hall of Famers. What we've seen is they are continuing in these groups, like the writers, to not vote in the steroid guys.
Right.
Instead, they voted in guys who maybe didn't get enough run on the ballot because maybe they were borderline, but now they're thought more highly of because they didn't take steroids in the steroid era.
They're almost rewarded because they were clean.
And in my opinion, and I know Dave Parker and Harold Baines played before Kenny Lofton, but when I think of great baseball players, to me, Kenny Lofton is a better baseball player than Harold Baines and Dave Parker. And I think those guys are both excellent ball players. I think Kenny Lofton's a little better than those guys.
Well, his defense adds to it.
Yeah,
like
certainly.
If you're just a hitter, that's half of a resume. Kenny Lofton was a A-plus defender for his entire career.
Now, it's pointless for today. I would argue that it's more than half your resume because I personally wouldn't vote for a guy who's just a defensive guy.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
It's a total package.
But there's guys that are in that were just defensive players.
Yes.
Ozzie Smith was a great defensive player.
Yes, but he was the whole package, as you say. And I think eventually, I saw the ballot. He's on the ballot, I think, in 27. And everybody on this ballot is a Hall of Fame caliber player, in my opinion. So it might take some time, but I do think Kenny will eventually get in.
Kenny was a prototypical leadoff hitter in his
when that mattered.
When that mattered. And I don't know if he's dinged a little bit because he wasn't a power hitter in the era of such monster power numbers, some of them steroid inflated. He's top 10 all-time in WAR among center fielders.
That's what does it for me.
Yeah, he's
top 10 all-time.
He has a career WAR of 68. Now, I think the defense inflates that. The defense kind of inflates the WAR numbers a little bit. But I think he's, of all the players with 600 stolen bases and 600 extra base hits, he's the only one not in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he's fringe. I think he's absolutely a Hall of Famer. He's played for half the league, so I'm curious to see what he chooses on his cap if he ever does get in.
Got to be Cleveland.
I would think so.
He had 3 different stints with the Guardians, Indians.
I think he's a slam dunk. I'm disappointed in the writers that
I am too. I thought they missed this one big time.
Yeah,
I thought they just missed, and I agree with both you guys. He should be in. I'm more, I think, with Bull. I think what everybody looks to the power numbers. I don't think that's fair because not everybody in baseball is a power hitter.
Game.
It wasn't his game. Not only was he the prototypical leadoff hitter, but I went back because I wasn't sure how many teams he played for. 17-year career, 16 full seasons. He made 11 trips to the playoffs. Like Rickey Henderson, who was the ultimate table setter in baseball history, he led his teams to the postseason. Not only did he lead 11 of his 16 seasons and in the playoffs, he was the guy setting the table for a lot of those teams. He had 3 different tenures with the Indians, and in all 3 tenures, he helped them get to the playoffs, which is astonishing. He led San Francisco to the playoffs, the Cubs to the playoffs, the Yankees to the playoffs, the Dodgers to the playoffs. Now, some of those were later years.
Well, but I'll say this. When he was on the Cubs, and obviously that was before I lived here.
Right.
I remember, because I didn't have this intimate relationship with him that Indians fans would have.
Right.
But I remember thinking, and I'm glad you brought it up, he was so impactful on that Cubs team making the playoffs.
Impacts winning.
I loved watching him in the playoffs because I just remember going, I know what this guy's going to give you. I saw it in Cleveland. Even when he was traded to the Braves, he was that guy in Atlanta. He helped get Atlanta to the playoffs. The Marquise Grissom thing, I wish the Indians never would have done that. I don't get it. I was glad he came back. I'm glad we got to see him. 6-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glove winner, 5 times he led the American League in stolen bases. Now, obviously, stolen bases are coming back into vogue.
Yeah.
But they were, after he was
At the
done
time,
playing,
sure.
they became a non-entity. But when you look at his numbers, and he had 622 stolen bases. Guys, he averaged 48 stolen bases a year. Here's why that is overlooked, in my view. That's like giving a player 48 extra doubles.
Right.
You know, 48.
Yeah.
Now, most of his steals were of second. I'm sure some of them were of third, too. He stole home base, famously.
Yeah.
Home plate. But I just think that when you put it all together, 2,400 hits, the 300 lifetime career batting average. I also like, on Baseball Reference, you can do player comparisons.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did
I've
that,
seen
but I
that.
did that.
Yeah.
I think the most appropriate one was Tim Raines. But they list 10 guys that are similar players to this. Ichiro and Ken Griffey were also listed as comparables to Kenny Lofton.
But Tim
now,
Raines, when I think of him, I think of Tim Raines.
I do
think
too.
They're the same type of player.
I think that's the closest
same
one.
careers.
I think he was kind of a poor man Ichiro. You know, he wasn't quite
not quite
at that
Ichiro.
level.
Raines was a left fielder. Kenny was a center fielder.
Yeah,
center fielder, roamed it with grace, and was one of the best defensive center fielders.
I think eventually he'll get in. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think he will.
He'll be in, by the way, in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to interview him for a piece I'm doing upstairs for the Cleveland Sports Awards.
Yeah.
They're bringing in 4 players from the '95 team.
Nice.
All right, we're taking a break. When we come back, now we'll talk about the Cavs. Are they going to just trounce Philadelphia tonight? They're playing hurt. The Sixers are. Cavs could be as well. We'll preview it next. Welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We're talking Cavs for this segment. Cavs at the Cavs. Are they home tonight or are they at the Sixers?
In Philadelphia.
Okay, in Philly. They're home Saturday
against Houston.
Yeah, tomorrow to play Houston as the completion of their little home and home. Philly is banged up. The Cavs, do we know definitively yet on who's going to be out tonight, or are we going to have to wait a little while?
We know Mobley's out.
For sure?
Yes, Okoro is out, and LeVert is a game-time decision.
Okay, so Okoro's definitely out. And LeVert is, we don't know yet.
I mean, even if guys were questionable, you might as well sit them tonight and then play them against Houston.
Not going to need him tonight.
Yeah,
Shouldn't.
I mean, you'd rather have all hands on deck at home against Houston on Saturday.
I agree with that.
Yeah, Philly's a mess. It's a game the Cavs should win. Obviously, a tough loss the other night against Houston. Bitter way to end it at the end. I expect them to bounce back and win tonight handily, I would think, and then gear up for tomorrow.
By the way, on yesterday's show, I was asking Mike, where's the 2-minute report on that foul that didn't get called?
It came out.
It came out.
And it came out, and there should have been a foul.
Oh, it was clear.
I
The
was
Sengun play?
Supposedly they weren't looking at that specific thing in the replay.
How can you miss it?
Well, they were supposedly the replay was just whether or not it was
a block or.
Well, no, what was it, Mike?
The replay could only look at whether or not it was flagrant.
Which it should have been,
or not.
no?
They couldn't just say he fouled him.
Right. Which doesn't make any sense.
That's stupid.
But
yes,
they should have.
They got it wrong.
The ref at the game should have clarified that because it looked ridiculous.
They should have called it. It was a bet.
Brad Doherty couldn't let
they
it go
still should have won
either.
the game.
You got 3 free throws on the ball with 2.8 seconds left.
I know.
No, you're right. That's not why they lost the game.
No, 2 separate things.
Yeah.
I just talked about whining about it.
No, I know. Yeah.
I'm 2 separate. I just didn't understand that. But yes, Cavs absolutely should have won that game. Like you said, 3 free throws and a chance to take a final shot.
With 3
down
seconds
only 2.
left.
And they couldn't get it one. And they got 1 point.
Sometimes in sports we see things that we literally can't believe. We can't believe it. I know it's 3 free throws. The fact that he had missed 2 earlier in the game, when he was going to the line, I'm like, oh, these are about as sure thing as you can get.
Mm-hmm. You would think.
And it was almost like the moment was too big for him. He was actually laughing at himself after the second miss.
I don't think the moment's too big. It's just the ball bounced the wrong way.
I thought he got, in my opinion, from the outside, I thought he got a bad bounce on the first one.
He hit it
and I
back
thought
of the
the
rim.
second one he shorted. He shorted the shot a little.
Aggravated.
Maybe
He missed the first one and broke his concentration. Maybe
What's
on the
stunning to me though, this is a guy that if he takes 10, he misses 1.
Yeah.
And he had 8 and missed 5.
Yeah.
Like that's just, I'm watching it saying, I'm not looking at this right now.
82 games. It's just the weird things that happen. 82 games. He may make his next 20 in a row. It's just the randomness of 1 of 82.
And we're in the dog days of the NBA season right now.
That was an ugly loss, though. Was
Yeah,
that their
bad.
worst loss? I know the blowout
No,
was
the-
worse.
yeah, I would say
I
the
think it was
Oklahoma
their
City
worst
loss was
This,
the worst.
see,
Houston's
to
a
me,
good
the
team.
Oklahoma City thing, you just chalk up and say they got blown out as one of those nights. But the Houston game just felt like one they should have had.
Well, they should have won at the end, but Houston's a good team.
They're a very good
behind
team.
And they
most
were
of the
down
night.
double digits at the
Yeah.
start of the fourth
What did
quarter.
G have to
so.
say yesterday about it? Because Wednesday he was just crapping all over Houston.
I
All
know.
we know is 0-2 when G makes that.
No,
Yeah.
1-2,
The other team
1-2.
is terrible. 1-2.
All right,
Excuse me.
all right, very good.
He didn't get a chance to double down on the Rockets today.
All right,
later.
we're out of time. Have a great weekend.